Hi, I'm Max Warburton and we're at Barbury Horse Trials and it's, a glorious day. So we've got a lot of runners this week. We've got 12 running here over the 3 days. Today's mainly the young horses, so we've got 1 in the 6-year-old and 2 in the 7-year-olds, and then actually 2 older horses later on in the AI. I love having the horses from the start, training them the way I want them to go, putting in the groundwork and the foundations to take them and produce them on to being top horses. And actually, like the 2 7-year-olds we've got here, and they're sort of how I want them to be, and they're early. This is an early 7-year-old class. Intermediate's a step up for them from last year, but they feel ready to go. And I think that sort of shows for them going forward that the basics have been done right the last few years, and now they're ready to crack on and hit the ground running. So we would buy a lot of 3, 4-year-olds, and we always look for a nice model, good type. Do they look athletic? We like to see them move and jump. Have they got a good walk? Are they straight? But overall, they've got to have a good temperament. You can train most things, but they've got to have a good brain. That makes up for a lot.
I'm Nikki Salmon, and I own a horse called Earl Dorado, who's running in the 7-year-olds. We are at the wonderful Barbury Castle near Marlborough, which is one of our most favourite events. I've always been a person that has liked to start young horses because they're a clean sheet. They've either come from the breeder or a reputable person. So if they have any foibles, you'll find out yourself. Rather than buying into something which is older, I like to see them progress. Inevitably, during their career, if you're a long-term owner, which I like to be, I always look to the end game. If they're not going to progress after they're about 6 or 7, then they get sold. But the horse we have now is very much a case of work in progress. He won the 5-year-olds at Cornbury, which was a musketeer event, and he won the 6-year-olds here. So he's got a bit of pressure on him, but we'll see.
They've all got to jump and they've all got to gallop. The dressage is very different. A step up from dressage training with a 6-year-old, they've just got to be nice, in and out line, walk, trot, canter. 7-year-olds have got to start moving laterally. And I think that's where you've got to up their training. And I think some obviously then struggle, they can get hotter, or I think, that's where it's important to have started them through the 5, 6, 7-year-old ranks and see how you get on.
It's a lot of learning new things in the dressage when they get to 6, especially when they get to 6-year-olds, learning rein back and going sidewards and all of the lateral work and things that you don't have to do in BE 100s. But yeah, just not letting them get bored really. Lots of time in the field, hoping that they don't get too fresh and crazy. At the end of the day, they're the future, and ones that are sometimes when they were brilliant as a 5-year-old, they're not necessarily as good as a 6 and a 7-year-old, and if they weren't so good as a 5-year-old, they can be really good as a 6 and 7-year-old, and you have to get your eye on them early, otherwise you're not to know which ones to take really, but yeah, it's very important.
Cross country on the 6-year-old Mombay Kandu, he had a glance off at fence 11, a little skinny. He's quite a green horse, he's very careful. He'll need to go and jump some more skinnies. To be fair to him, he jumped very big over the brush, turned into the skinny. He didn't pick it up quickly enough. That's fine, that's part of their training. He turned around, popped it, finished off lovely. We'll go home now, cross-country schooling probably next week before his next run. And you'd hope he'll just put that behind him. That's a part of his training. That's fine. I never mind that. If they make a mistake, they genuinely didn't read something, fine. That's all part and parcel.
Obviously, it's all taken very slowly. The success aspect of it is a nice thought, but you have to be terribly realistic, and it's a long old process. And I think you come to each event with these babies, and each event is another new learning experience. And success, I suppose, that's a lot further down the line.
They learn a lot by being in an age group. They learn how to come out and be with other horses, and they don't have to compete against much older horses. It's very important for their education.
But I think it's great they can compete against their own age group, and you can compare. You know, they're not against OI horses or more advanced horses, they're against their age. No, I think it's a great idea, and hopefully it stays and keeps going like that.
I just think they just progress, they just understand more of what you're asking of them. They grow in stature. I mean, this particular horse was a sort of great big dollop of a thing. Just a child. Now, he's looking quite good. Whether he behaves or not is quite another thing. I think he's going through that sort of teenage bit where he thinks he knows it all, but he has to understand that the rider knows probably better. So it could be good, it could be bad. But he amuses me anyway.
It's very rewarding, you know, doing them from the start, producing them to this level. I really think it's better than going and buying an old schoolmaster. You know, I personally find it better to go from the beginning and produce them through the way through.